orange bar is 2014. So you see just a lot more new funds, or a lot more funds being created. So, one vote for bubble. Lots of new unicorns. So this is the number of new companies that hit that $1 billion private market valuation mark over time. This year, I think we've seen a new company enter the unicorn kind of category every 7 days. So, it's pretty rapid. Today I think another one was anointed. So, it's pretty significant. We're on track to have definitely over $100 billion, probably $110 billion invested into VC-backed companies globally. So a big number, bigger than any of the prior years. Sign of a bubble. IPO activity has been basically non-existent. The public markets are not open to companies going public. Not many of them. You find companies like Fitbit that actually go out and do very well. But then there's this term private IPO, which is private rounds of over $100 million. That's an orange bar. That's actually growing really significantly. So, you don't need to go public because there's so much capital in the private markets. A lot of this is the Valley, New York, and Asia, I would say. Companies there can raise quite a bit of money. Not all of them, but some of them with traction. So when you add those two up, the trend actually looks pretty good. But again, if you are in the bubble category, this is a sign of that. Then the other big one is, all these other money coming in. So it's not just VCs now. It's Fidelity, it's sovereign wealth funds, it's BlackRock, it's all these hedge funds. So people will say, this is kind of dumb money. Hedge funds, this is Tiger Global, which is a big hedge fund, and all of it's sort of, it's children in some sense, that, people who spun out of Tiger who've created funds. Corporates, I mentioned earlier, making lots of deals. You see corporate VC deal activities way up. The number of corporates getting in, so I think, again, there's this overhang from 99, 2000, where it was, corporates got in late, and they're a leading indicator in a lot of people's minds that when corporates get in, that's sort of the top. So, and then this is the old dumb money thing, right? So this is what VCs will often say, is that all these other guys are dumb money. The reality is, if you look at VC returns, they're not really good either. So I'm not sure they have the right to call other people dumb, but they still do. So you got your price to sales multiples. You got Uber and Slack, are valued at a crazy multiple of their current revenue. So again, that's people point to as a problem. Dropbox is way more highly valued on a multiple than Box, which is public. So again, there's this private-public market disconnect. This is, if I gave my editorial opinion, this is probably one of the real things. Dropbox is going to have to figure out how to close that because, it's going to be tough to go public at where they are valued at right now. And then there's a lot of unicorns, right? So we have this tracker. This is a slide I put together yesterday, so it's actually 134 today. So, worth almost $500 billion collectively. So it's a lot of money sloshing around in the private market. So again, one of those reasons people point to as the bubble. I think I lost my clicker. All right. Somebody click for me. All right, well, I will try to move on without this. That'll be challenging. So let me ask a lot, or?
Yes.
Okay. How about New York and Boston, or not so much?
Just the Valley.
Just the Valley, okay. Do they want you to relocate out there?
Yep. No.
No?
Some do.
Some do? All right. Okay. Yeah, there's a great, the guy from Social Capital Partnership had a line about the Valley companies are spending a lot on kind bars and exposed brick offices now, and he said it's getting a little crazy out there. So it's yeah, it's definitely expensive. I was talking to a Valley friend last week. Oh, there we go. And he said that his engineers pulled him aside and said they were upset that the office had drop ceilings. So so yeah, people are talking about real nonsense right now. So all right, so I'm back in business. So this is the why it's not a bubble side. So the biggest reason a lot of people point to is the software is eating the world kind of phenomena, right? Coined by Mark Andreessen. And so when you look at 99 2000 was tech companies generally sort of attacking other tech companies. When you look at it today, it's tech companies attacking lots of tech companies, but also sort of legacy industries, right? So here we put this graphic together of who's attacking Honeywell, right? When you look at all of the products and services that Honeywell offers, kind of you see startups that are attacking them at an individual product and service level. And so, big companies tend to worry about their other big company competitors, and actually it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? That's sort of what I think is continuing to happen. It's not GE that's gonna, or Siemens, kind of industrial conglomerate to consumer packaged goods to logistics, right? You look at FedEx, it's just being kind of attacked sort of across a bunch of different of its service offerings. Of course, fintech is really big right now. Whether it's payments companies, banks, insurance, there's a whole big change going on right there. So, this is one of the reasons people point to is they say, listen, this when they say this time it's different, you have to worry, but in some sense, this time it is different because of how kind of eclectic the industries that tech is going after. You have the old guard kind of waking up, right? And so you see this is more on the fintech side, Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, Goldman, in typical Goldman fashion, put out this report, and they have like these very sinister titles. So if you can read it, it says "The Rise of the New Shadow Bank." It's very Goldman Sachs. But they're worried about fintech. They're talking about all the disruption that fintech might introduce to players in the existing market. You see Goldman actually getting into P2P lending, themselves to their credit, pretty progressive. So I showed this slide earlier. They laugh at that. That's like garbage money, right? So this is small ball, right? There's no systemic risk that a $50 million fund, kind of presents to the larger economy. Every tech unicorn combined is worth less than Apple, right? So you add up every single one of those guys, and you're sort of between a Google and an Apple, and depending on how the markets are doing, they probably fall below Google as well. They're all combined worth less than 5% of the NASDAQ 100. So, they get a lot of chatter. There's a lot of kind of conversation about them, but they're not worth, in the grand scheme of things, a lot versus sort of your big public tech companies. So people point to the public markets as being the fact that nobody can go public as a sign of the bubble, which is completely sort of ass backwards in terms of logic, right? The fact that companies can't go public is actually a sign that there is not a bubble, right? So in 99 2000, if you were a .com, you went public, you got a big one-day pop because you were a .com. Now it's actually pretty hard to go public, right? And so this is SaaS multiples over time. On the public side, they've been decreasing. So it's actually, the public markets are sort of rational, right? When you look at, this is a very kind of noisy chart, but this is sort of Box and Lending Club and a bunch of recent IPOs. And what you see is that over time, the bad companies get punished, right? So it's not just, hey, I'm in tech, give me a big multiple.